From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Pod Monster.
All right, welcome back. My name is John, and this is the Dewey Pod Monster podcast. This is the original podcast about consumption, and on this show, we talk about all kinds of crap. With me this week, as always, is the host of the Dewey Pod Monster podcast, who is also the authority on Michigan craft beer. His name is Sean. And Sean, how are you doing today?
You know, between being the authority on this kind of shit, I've been hiding red bags all over the forest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rainbow bags?
Just on the handle.
Just on the handle.
Yeah.
Well, I like
strap.
That's, hey, whatever you got to do to get shit done, right? So, what have you been up to this week?
Oh, you know.
I feel like it's been a long time since we've recorded.
It hasn't really been that long, but it does feel like...
Because we skipped last Monday. We went off schedule for beer thing, and it feels like it's been a long time.
We're so ahead of the game that we were able to take a week off.
Absolutely.
But I don't remember a goddamn thing that I watched that week, other than what I'm going to talk about just right now to you.
We went to Hawaii. We fought a snake.
Yeah.
We, fought some mushroom people on the drive there. You know, all kinds of crazy shit's been happening over the last week.
Lots of stuff.
So
I've caught up on a lot more of let me just get it out of the way. Everybody's on the edge of their seat. They want to know, Sean, did you finish Real World Miami? I did. I watched the whole rest of the season. I'm done with it. No more Real World to watch. I don't want to watch Chicago or Seattle or New Orleans or Hawaii. I don't even know which one comes next. That's how uninterested, uninvolved I am at this point. But I did finish Miami. I got to tell you, probably the most disappointing ending. Like, it just kind of ended. Like, they were trying to build their business up. Just kind of, they didn't do it, and they didn't get it. You know, they didn't get on track, and it just ended. Like, they're just like, all right, we're leaving.
Sounds like the real world, me.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And then so then of course I had to jump on YouTube and watch all the interviews of all the people who, you know, were not the reunion, but like, where are they now interviews. There's a couple YouTubers that are like specializing in interviewing these people like 25 years after the fact. So of course I had to watch those. But other than that, as you do, I've been continuing to watch Tales from the Territories, which is a Vice show. It's kind of, I talked about it, I think last week or last time we recorded. Basically, it's the wrestling stories. They get a bunch of old timers around a table, usually 4 to 5 old timers, and they talk about different stories from, you know, their time in these territories before the WWE was the big one. The most recent one that I watched was about Jim Crockett wrestling, which became NWA, which became WCW. So
NWA?
Yeah. Not that
NWO?
one. No, NWA.
Okay.
National Wrestling Association. So that's like,
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, the thing that was like the competitor to WWE before it became WCW, eventually became WCW. But the thing that I noticed watching all these, I still have that's the 9th episode, I believe, out of 10 for the season. I still have to watch the 10th one. But the thing I've noticed, Ric Flair got around a lot. They don't interview him. He doesn't talk like during these stories. But he is in so many of these episodes just maybe as a background, or they just kind of mention that he was the champion of the territory at some point.
I kind of wouldn't be surprised if he's just like he is now, where he just shows up at places, screams woo, and then wanders around being Ric Flair and doing Ric Flair things. Because he still does that now. Like, he'll show up at random, like, shoe stores with, like, a camera crew and do, like, a Ric Flair goes shoe shopping video today and shit like that. So
then he goes, woo!
Exactly. Which I wasn't going to do that, but
I did it for you. I did it for the boat. I did it for everybody, for the audience too. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there. But the thing that's interesting is they show him when he's younger, like before he really got in shape. And I guess he was in a plane crash and he broke his back. And that's what kind of got him to get into shape, and he lost a bunch of weight. But they show some pictures of him. They reuse the same picture in a bunch of these different episodes of when he was really young, like probably in his 20s. He doesn't look anything like what you remember him to look like, even in the 90s. I mean, he looks like super out of shape. So I watched that. I did watch for me, it was one of the more recent WWE biographies on A&E that we've talked about several times. This one was really weird. It was Jerry the King Lawler and Paige.
I watched that one too.
But I didn't see the Paige part. So it was only like a 44-minute thing. And there was, I mean, I don't even know who Paige is, so that didn't really bother me that I didn't see that one. But it was just really weird
I also never liked Jerry the King Lawler, so I was okay with it being shorter.
Yeah, me neither, but they had a whole episode on Tales from the Territories. I think it was a second episode about Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman. So they don't even mention the same things. It's really weird. They spent a whole 44-minute episode on Tales from the Territories about Jerry the King Lawler and Andy Kaufman, but on the A&E biography of Jerry the King Lawler, like they don't mention, they just kind of gloss over some shit and they kind of tell a different story when they talk about the Andy Kaufman stuff. So it's weird.
Seems like they spend a lot more time on the A&E. Well, I didn't watch the Territory one that you're talking about, at least not yet, but the A&E one for him, it seems like they spend almost as much, if not more time talking about his broadcasting career and how he like tried to kill himself, basically. I mean, he didn't try to kill himself,
but almost died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like they spend more time on that than they do on his wrestling at least in the WWE part of it. Like they talk a little bit about him, like, was it Memphis where he was like the, King Duda of
Duda.
They talk about, they go on that, but then it's weird. Him wrestling in the WWE, which I remember a lot of because he was one of the, I mean, he owns up to it. And he owns up to it. He was a shill. You were not supposed to like Jerry the King Lawler. Goal reached.
He's a perfect heel.
Yeah. But yeah, they real quick moved him in because they real quick moved on to like, well, Macho Man took off and now here's Jerry.
Yeah, they kicked out Macho Man because he was so bad. And
no, they didn't kick him out. He left to go to WCW.
And they're like, we need somebody.
But they claimed they kicked him out because ego.
Well, he was shitty too. As an announcer, he's pretty bad. But
I disagree. He was great as an announcer.
You can only listen to, for so long. And you're like, oh my God.
How long is Raw? Like an hour or 2 hours? I would be
at
fine
least
with
2,
it either way.
Sometimes 3. Yeah. I think it went like 8 to 11. And that's been your wrestling corner, at least from my side, for the last 10 minutes. But
that's all I got. We hit it at once. That's all I got on Wrestling Corner for today.
And then I just started because the new season of Yellow Jackets started recently on Showtime. I've decided to go back and start watching Yellow Jackets. So I'm a few episodes into that.
Okay. I watched all kinds of weird shit this week. So on the normal side, I didn't watch the whole event, but I watched the Holly Holm fight from Saturday. So spoiler for a fight that will be 3 weeks old when this comes out, but she won that fight. So that's, I don't know, she's one of those fighters I kind of like seeing when she wins. Decent match though, went full 3 rounds and a couple good strikes in there. Then I fell into some shitty movies because that's what we do around here. I watched Killer Piñata, which is on TV, which is a piñata that is a killer, and it's not good at all. I don't really have to drag that out too much more, but
what else needs to be said? It's called Killer Piñata.
We'll include a link in the show notes for this, but if you're listening or if you don't want to look at the show notes for some reason, just pull up the poster for this movie because I saw it. I was like, well, I'm going to watch that because it's literally like a piñata with googly eyes, like murdering someone. It's fantastic. How could you not click on that and say, well, yeah, I'll try that. It's an hour and a half of my life I'm glad to not get back. Kind of right in that same wheelhouse was Sharkula, which is the shark version of Dracula, in which Dracula has translucent digital blood for some reason. And the shark is a hand puppet that, I don't know, there's some weird shit they do with perspective in this movie, like I think they're trying to make you think the shark is big, but it looks like it's a sock puppet with like teeth drawn on it until it comes out of the water and eats someone. And then it's like, do you remember how big like Grimace and like Mayor McCheese and those were like guys were when they had the actual dudes walking around McDonald's on occasion? Like he was like that big, like mascot big, which is still smaller than I would expect a Dracula great white shark to be, but bigger than, a sock puppet for sure. Again, really terrible movie, but really worth watching just for the Sharkula theme song that's at the beginning and the end of the movie. Yes, they make their own song for it.
I was going to say, did they just repurpose Dragula from Rob Zombie? And
no, it's closer to like the Spider-Man song, but the only lyric is the word Sharkula. So it's just mwah.
Maybe we'll clip that in here.
We might. That probably be that, or there's going to be another Crummy Movie merch, I'm sure. This has been somewhat popular, so we'll maybe come back to it. Or that was somewhat popular. That was 2 weeks ago now. I started watching the Scream TV show that was on MTV, and man, does that Ghostface mask look fucking terrible. It looks like a glory hole with eyes, which is not what you want in your bad guy. But it's basically like watching, any MTV like mid 2000 show just with a guy killing people occasionally on it. I'm only like 4 episodes in, but it's not really holding my attention as well as I would like it to. And then the only other thing I watched, and I think you mentioned watching this before, was that Killer Sally documentary that was on Netflix. Maybe you didn't watch this, the one with the bodybuilder.
Oh, no, I didn't. No, I think I started watching that, but I don't know if I ever mentioned it. I thought you were going to say like it was about somebody on Sally Jesse Raphael or something.
That might have been just as interesting. If you like those true crime kind of Netflix documentaries, the ones that it's the exact same beat for beat thing that they do. First they make her the victim, then they kind of make you think, well, maybe she kind of went to, they just flip it and it's fine. It's an interesting story, and it's kind of really cool that you get to hear it from her point of view through the whole thing, because she's actually in the whole documentary. But at the same time, it's a Netflix true crime documentary. If you've seen one, you pretty much know what you're getting into. It's just a matter of how many episodes do you want to watch. This one's 3.
Yeah, it just follows the formula.
Yeah. Beat for beat, note for note. I like that there's a place for this kind of documentary, because as morbid as it is, I do find stories like that to be interesting, but they're really not doing anything spectacular or like groundbreaking at this point with those docs. They might as well just make it a TV show or something like that and put it on there.
It's probably cheaper for them to do these documentaries because they just have to pay the people for the story, that they interview or pay them the fee.
Sure. It's got to be cheaper than what was that stupid Will Smith movie, Bright or something like that, where they
he's like one of them's a troll or something.
Yeah, something like that. Whatever that was, I'm sure getting Will Smith and Adam Sandler in your movies costs more than getting a convict who you can have talk about killing her husband.
Yeah, or not.
But no,
no spoilers.
Shh. So before I continue to get shushed, you got anything else you want to hit on before we get into the long-awaited or dreaded topic of this episode?
No, I'm ready to dive right into some talking about bears. I've been called a bear on occasion, so I want to talk about some other black bears.
Have you been called this kind of bear or
black bear?
No, I didn't think that's where you were going with that.
A cocaine bear.
Yeah. So we're talking about Cocaine Bear, which is it's a movie, and it is a movie that came out about a month ago at this point and was pretty popular for a minute, was burning pretty bright. And we were like, fuck that. We're going to talk about Black Devil Doll from Hell. And,
and it was worth it.
Yeah. We put this on the back burner and let everyone else, ride the excitement of the Cocaine Bear. And we're going to come back and pick up the crumbs.
We're going to have this really detailed, educated talk about Cocaine Bear. We just wanted all the people that, the banana riders to get it out of their system, so we could then talk about Cocaine Bear in an educated manner, because this is such a highbrow show.
Nothing says deep and educated like Cocaine Bear,
or the Dewey Pod Monster for that matter.
Yeah, that's where we're at. This movie is currently 7th on the questionable. We don't know out of how many movies its popularity is on IMDb. I'm rambling. It's down from position 1, so I think John Wick is probably, I would assume, what knocked it off, because that just came out this week. Or maybe Scream knocked it off. I don't know. Something like that. I don't really care to find out what's number 1.
Black Devil Doll from Hell?
Seriously doubt that. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to start kind of introducing a shitty review to go along with shitty movies that's pulled from either IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes. So before we do that, I'm going to let Sean tackle the plot or whichever he wants to read, and then we'll give you a little review, and then we'll go into our thoughts on it.
All right, so I'll just read the plot because that seems like it seems okay. An oddball group of cops, criminals, tourists, and teens converge on a Georgia forest where a huge black bear, says teens, goes on a murderous rampage after unintentionally ingesting cocaine.
Kanya.
Yayo. Is that heroin? Yayo?
Sure.
I'm not into all the drug lingo.
Apparently neither am I. This review for this movie came off IMDb and is titled Long Live Pablo Escobar, which actually is the name of this bear in question. You don't need a lengthy analysis or someone to recap the film here. You already know this is Cocaine Bear. Anything else will spoil the movie experience. I'm certain this will be a huge hit. They may already be working on sequels. Allow me to suggest Cocaine Bear 2, Mushroom Bear, Tripping on Psychobin. Cocaine Bear 3, Molly Bear, loves everybody. Cocaine Bear 4, Cannabis Bear, Uncontrollable Munchies. Cocaine Bear 5, Viagra Bear, self-explanatory. The title pretty much tells you the kind of movie to expect, and it delivers as promised. If you expect too much, you're going to be disappointed. But I don't think anyone who's going to see this film is expecting an Oscar-worthy, meaningful masterpiece. Yeah, I guess the movie could have been better. Definitely not a 10-star film. But compared to some other things in this category, I think it's above average.
All right, podcast over.
Yeah.
Thanks, whoever anonymous internet person.
Thank you, random fucker on IMDb.
I'm going to say going into this, this person, I'm going to say it's a he, but it could be a she. Sometimes they call themselves a he, but they're really a she.
It's JJ Chi, whatever that means.
JJ Chi. Okay, well, JJ Chi. I'm going to kind of back up, or I'm going to reinforce one of the concepts that he introduced in his review. Going into this movie, we've talked about this. If you've listened to the show, more than this.
We've been talking about it since this movie
has been announced.
Yeah.
And I have been the naysayer, right? So I thought that it was only fitting that before I went into watching this movie, I would give it a pre-review, like a pre-number that I'm going to give it. So I'm going in with super low expectations. I want to see if it's as bad as I thought it was going to be. My pre-rating is a 3.5 out of 11. Just based on all the hype, the name, the concept, what I knew about it, I gave it a 3.5 out of 11. So let's see at the end if the hot dogs match the buns.
There's got to be a better analogy there, but I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
So where do we start here? Where do we want to start here? I guess the easiest thing to start with is just kind of, I don't know what you really want to classify this movie as. Like, they're calling this movie a comedy thriller. Okay, I guess that's accurate, but the comedy in this movie kind of sucks. It's really like, well, let's just get right into it. I mean, the biggest problem with this fucking movie is that there's not enough fucking cocaine bear and there's too much fucking people in it. There's some wacky shit that happens along the way that makes it entertaining, but it's the elephant in the room. Like, there's just flat out not enough of this like goofy bear running around doing drugs.
I have a counterpoint. I feel like this movie, it's like a slasher in a bit of a way, and it's like a caper movie in a bit,
way,
right? Because they're trying to find the drugs, and there's just a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of storylines, they do converge at the end, and I don't want to get into the end right now, but they do converge at the end, and they do kind of all meet up the same road or whatever, that they all go down the same path. But I got a counterpoint to you. I feel like this movie has just enough cocaine bear. Because at first I'm like, yeah, John's right. He planted the seed. There's not enough of this bear. And by the end of the movie, I'm like, I am done with this fucking bear. There was at least enough of the bear, if not too much.
We should say that I watched this at least a month ahead of when Sean saw this. So he had an inkling of what I had thought of it. And before
go back and listen to some episodes where we talk about Cocaine Bear. I don't remember the exact one that you mentioned that you saw the movie, and I don't know if you even said it, if we were talking on text, but you were like, one thing about this movie, not enough Cocaine Bear. And I got to say, it's almost too much Cocaine Bear for me.
Yeah, no, it's not. And, it's kind of like saying in the movie, like, it doesn't have enough Jason Voorhees. Well, I'm going to say that about every fucking movie, including the ones with Jason Voorhees in them. I want more Cocaine Bear. You could have a buddy film where it's Cocaine Bear and Jason Voorhees just kind of hanging out in the woods, and I would be all for it.
I mean, I do have to say that I appreciate any movie that sources Wikipedia for its...
That's true.
For its story, for its quotes.
Yeah. As you're seeing that, so as you're getting Wikipedia for your bear survival facts, you get to see some hippies kind of encounter the cocaine bear for the first time. I kind of enjoyed watching the cocaine bear give like the absolute cleanest, mean as hell sack on this like hippie chick before he got penalized for unnecessary roughness as he ripped her leg off.
And to mention, the movie takes place in 1985, so it's obviously it's not current day. They do play up the 80s fact.
They play it up, but they don't play it up well. It doesn't. So yes, they play like some music that sounds like it's from the 80s. I'm sure they scored it or whatever, but it doesn't feel like... I've seen so many movies and TV shows for that matter that manage to get the feel of the 80s so much better than what this does. This feels like a bunch of people who are dressed up in what they were told was like they're going to a 1980s like
retro party or something.
Yeah, and this is kind of what you ended up with. The only person who feels like an 80s character is Ray Liotta. The rest of these characters feel like they're just modern day characters that happen to be going to a Stranger Things convention or something like that.
I do like the fact that they incorporate real television broadcast stuff at the very beginning of the movie to kind of set the tone.
I noted that too. I really enjoyed seeing Pee Wee Herman's anti-drug campaign, which I haven't seen that since I was a kid, but I think it's even funnier that they chose that one considering that he was one of the stars in the movie Blow however many years ago. So he's not only got the history of, well, he's got a lot of history.
Sure,
but he's got
lots of things.
He's got the anti-drug campaign, and he was also like a major coke dealer in another movie. So that's kind of a funny little tie-in.
I was just missing the anti-public masturbation public service announcement to kind of round out the trifecta of his things there.
But did he do a public thing for that? I don't remember if he did.
No, not that I know of.
He did the act in public, but
some of the anti-drug things I had never seen because they were, specifically, does this take place in Virginia?
Tennessee,
Georgia forest.
Georgia?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the forest was in Georgia, but some of it takes place, I think, in Tennessee. But I thought that they did a good job of trying to incorporate or trying to set the tone for being in the 80s, but some of it, like Ice Cube Jr., O'Shea Jackson Jr., whatever his name is, he didn't really strike me as someone, besides having like the Air Maxes or whatever, he didn't really strike me. He wasn't really costumed.
That's a modern thing, too. Like, he looked like Ice Cube.
Yeah, well,
fatter. One of the things young Ice Cube. Young Ice Cube was
young, fat,
whatever. I made a point in here of writing down, like, I realize this is our second NWA, or maybe third now, NWA reference of the show, but I realize that this movie is set a few years before NWA broke, and that Ice Cube, this isn't Ice Cube, that is his son, but strong family resemblance between the two of them, for sure. But, so, leading into this, like, Ice Cube's kid is one of the drug dealers, essentially, or he's trying to get the drugs for Ray Liotta. That's what his character is essentially doing.
Should we just mention, the beginning of the movie starts, an airplane's flying over, they dump cocaine out of the plane because it's about to go, this was like a common thing, I guess, and they dump this cocaine out of a plane. It lands on Blood Mountain in this like kind of forest park, like a park ranger is there, so, make that of what you will. If that's even a phrase
Dewey
that people
Cox's
use.
mom.
Yeah. And the plane goes down. Mm-hmm. So the movie is basically Ray Liotta is this drug dealer who he's on the hook with these Colombian drug lords. He's going to owe them all this money. They need to go and retrieve these big duffel bags full of cocaine. So his son, who he's estranged from, and O'Shea Jackson are friends. They are going to the forest to find the cocaine.
Along the way, they get introduced to several side characters.
Yeah. Keri Russell's daughter and her little friend go off. They skip school to go paint a waterfall, which I still don't understand what that means. And then we have the park ranger. We've got the whatever
random thug.
Yeah,
kids.
I was gonna say thug or like delinquent kids that are that find cocaine. So it's all these people that are finding this cocaine, and the bear is the one that's on this rampage because he gets a sniff of cocaine and I don't know, whatever. Like, I don't even understand how the bear constantly is just like, he's become hooked on, or she, I guess, spoiler, has become hooked on cocaine for the entire movie, just getting like a little whiff of some coke. And then the rest of the time, it's just like on this rampage to get the cocaine too. And Isaiah Whitlock, who you may remember from The Wire, Cedar Rapids, he's mayonnaise from Apple and Onion. And I have to say, I want to get this out of the way. I was so disappointed that we have Isaiah Whitlock in this movie, and he doesn't even say shit.
It's also in my notes that this is a perfect opportunity to have him reprise that line in this kind of stupid movie. You should have had him do it. You didn't. Missed opportunity.
Let's hear your shit.
Shit. Yeah, I'm not good at it. So, backtracking to what I was going to say, this movie takes place before NWA broke. I'm sure Ice Cube was around, but they weren't famous at this point. So there's not like a real point of reference there. But if I walk into a restroom and see Ice Cube in there, that's the last person I'm thinking, I'm going to jump this guy.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
He's not someone I'm going to fight. But these idiots do, and they get their ass beat. And that's kind of entertaining.
Yeah, the thug delinquent kids.
Yeah. Let's see. Some of these other characters, like the two kids that you mentioned that are skipping school, are I think they're fucking terrible in this movie. They're so badly written for. They're trying to force them. The dialogue that they try to force on them is trying to make it seem more excessive or more extreme, but it just comes off like unbelievable. Not that I doubt that kids would go cut school and go swear and stuff, but I don't think that they would do it the way that these kids talk. And I don't think that if I found a brick of cocaine that I would even know. I guess I don't know how to do it, but what it is, or decide like, I'm going to ingest this by shoving a knife in my mouth full of cocaine. Like, it's not believable to me that kids that look this young, they look like they're like 12.
Yeah.
If that would be doing massive amounts of blow in the middle of the forest, or trying to.
I didn't think that those kids were that, the acting or their writing or whatever, I didn't think it was that unbelievable. I mean, they're just dumb kids.
Well, they're absolutely dumb kids.
Yeah.
So I'll go with that. Aside from the antics of the bear, what do you think of the look of the bear?
I didn't think it looked very good.
It doesn't.
I mean, they could have gotten a bear, like a trained bear, to do all the scenes where it's just moseying around. And, you know, I guess it really doesn't do that either, though. It just it's always on the attack, which, I mean, whatever. I thought that was really far-fetched. Like, this bear essentially is like a Jason Voorhees, a Michael Myers. Like, it's just slaughtering people, leaving a trail of bodies.
One of my favorite, probably my favorite kill in the whole movie is a direct Jason Voorhees ripoff where he takes the bear paw through the window and grabs I don't remember, I think it's a dude.
Yeah, I think it's one of the thug kids.
Yeah, he like grabs his face and just like rips his head off basically right there. I was like, oh, that's straight out of I'm pretty sure that's straight out of a Friday the 13th movie. There's like 140 some odd people that die in those movies, so I could be wrong, but I thought that was entertaining. And I mean, I was saying this before we started recording, like, realistically, this movie it's a Tubi movie. It's a midnight movie. It's a cheap monster movie. It's in the same vein as Sharknado and all that type of, like, we're going to have a dumb animal show up and we're going to give it some kind of super power, I guess. We're going to overspec it and it's just going to run amok for a while. I think the problem with this movie for most of its audience is people went into this movie expecting like a Marvel level looking movie out of something called Cocaine Bear. Like, again, being realistic with it, you made a movie called Cocaine Bear. You're not going to have a big budget. Anytime this bear's on TV, you have two options. You either have a costume like mannequin thing, which would have been better, or you have CG. Well, CG lets you do a lot of the stunts that this bear, or the things that this bear is able to do, a whole hell of a lot cheaper than what you would have got if you were getting, you know, stunt people, or like you mentioned, a bear just to mosey around or whatever. Like, you're not going to accomplish that I bet you this was probably around like 20 million or something like that for this budget. See if I can find it here.
I think it's going to be a lot more than that.
35, which is still pretty low budget by like
that's true,
modern movie standards. So how much of that 35 went into marketing this thing? Because this thing was all over the place for like 2 months there.
Yeah, sure.
Like leading up to it and running through it. But yeah, I think if you go into this movie expecting it to be, again, Marvel or like modern, like blockbuster movie level effects, well written and well acted, you're going to be disappointed. However, if you go into this movie with the mindset of like, oh no, this is something that should be in crummy movie March, but got popular because it was on the internet, and it's got a bear that's doing drugs. It looks like shit. It kind of plays like shit, but you have a couple pops and kind of sit back. You can have some fun just watching this bear like cause some chaos for hour and a half. It's not a very long movie.
Yeah, this is definitely a movie that I think if it was made, I don't know, in the 90s or any time before this, but and maybe even without all the hype that it got, this would have been like a pay-per-view, you know, streaming direct to whatever kind of release. Like this wouldn't be and I don't know,
this would have been a video store like shelf thing that,
yeah, like a shelf
some moron kid like me or you for that matter wanders and it goes, that looks stupid, and rents it.
Oh, did you ever see that movie Cocaine Bear, dude? This is fucking sweet.
Right. And that's what this movie is. But again, it got a major, and to this movie's credit, we said it has a $35 million budget according to IMDb. That's all I'm going off of. It almost doubled it. It made 62 million. Actually, it made 80 million worldwide, so it more than doubled it. So good for them. They found a niche and they, made a bunch of money off of it. I don't know that we'll actually get a sequel like that random guy wants, but it's fine for what it is. Just don't go in expecting it to be Citizen Kane when the movie's called Cocaine Bear.
I should mention, I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, this was directed by Elizabeth Banks. So
Yep.
It's probably one of the bigger, I guess she did Pitch Perfect 2, which I didn't know that she was a director.
I didn't even know she was directing before this. I know her as an actress from a whole bunch of stuff, but I didn't know she was
Press Your Luck on TV, host of Press Your Luck.
I don't know what
Not
that is,
Peter
but...
Tamarkin, the new one. The No Whammies, Stop.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that's the last thing I've seen her in. But yeah, I didn't realize that she was directing this until I had seen all this shit when this movie came out.
I always think of her from Zack and Mary or from 40-Year-Old Virgin. So that's, comedy movies is usually where I think.
Yeah. Slither.
Yeah. So there's a good one too. But yeah, I mean, good for her. I mean, I'm glad she got to do something, outside of her norm, and clearly she made money off of it. So whoever paid her is going to be happy. But
with this movie, every time the bear shows up and kills somebody, I was just like, the ambulance scene really comes to mind, like the whole ambulance sequence.
Chase?
Yeah. Well, the chase. Oh my God. But it's just like, get the fuck out of there. What are you doing? I guess so in a way it kind of holds on to those kind of slasher roots. I think my favorite kill of the entire movie is the road rash, like falling out of the, that was kind of, I was like, oh man, they're going to show that. That was pretty severe, but I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But like I said, the bear just leaves this wake of victims. Like nobody's visiting the park this day. Nobody notices that, oh, hey, I'm going to the ranger station. There's 50 dead people on the way there, and they're all mauled in some gruesome fashion, or the one way or the other.
Well, and one of the things I wrote down too is like this movie was the perfect opportunity. If you're going to make a movie that is just a mindless body count, this is a movie where you could do that quite easily. And I guess that's kind of what they were doing by introducing all these random people, because most of these people that we've talked about end up getting, if not dead, they get fucked up pretty good throughout this movie.
You don't get attached to anybody because they're only there generally for a few minutes on screen, and then they're taken care of. But
they feel they need to try to give them this like backstory almost leading into it, which if you're going to just kill them off by the bear, like don't waste time with it. You could cut 15 minutes out. Well, maybe not 15, but 10 minutes out of this movie just by getting rid of all the backstory shit and just have the bear go fuck them up and move on. That's the whole movie. And I wouldn't complain because it's not going to be that radically different than what we have right now. Again, I'm not watching this movie for story. It's called Cocaine Bear. I want to see a bear running around doing crazy shit, but you get that, but there's too much other shit that's, in the way at the same time.
And the last thing I want to kind of just mention, non sequitur. I guess it's a sequitur, but this is Ray Liotta's final performance. So he's in this movie. I guess they filmed or they recorded some voiceover stuff for.
He's only in like 5-10 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, but he's in it. He's in it a lot more than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, he's good when he's in it. I'll give him credit for that. Like I've heard other people say that this is just a paycheck movie for him, which it probably is. But I don't know. Maybe it's just because I like Ray Liotta quite a bit, but I think he's entertaining when he's on screen. And you want the guy who actually embodies that 1985 dirtbag feel. Ray Liotta is a pretty good choice to do that.
Yeah, and he's a good villain for this in this movie.
Oh, for sure.
Especially his whole kind of turn I guess he's not ever a nice guy, but he really makes you feel like he's a shithead, like drug dealer dirtbag. By the end of the movie, you'll really share that opinion.
Yeah, pretty much. I do think it's funny that they gave the bear cocaine mannerisms. There's scenes where they show the bear like rubbing at his nose and like doing the like gum thing where he's licking on his gums because they're presumably tingling and stuff like that. So I thought it was funny that they kind of edited in some actual like, oh, he's not just killing people. He's also like acting like people do on cocaine.
I don't like that.
No,
I don't like, why don't they just have a scene where people are the kids ingest cocaine? Why isn't there just a scene where the kids are like, they're high and the bear just starts talking, why don't they just do that?
It's not usually what cocaine does.
Yeah, but it's some of the silly, dumb shit that they do in this movie. I don't like anthropomorphized animals. Like I don't know. I don't find that entertaining at all. That just
you're okay if it's a possessed whatever
anthropomorphized
doll from
a
hell.
Black Devil doll's not an animal, so it can't be anthropomorphized, but no, that's realistic. I mean, ventriloquist dummies.
That's realistic.
Hey, don't confront me on my hypocrisy. What the hell's wrong with you?
Of all the things you want to be realistic,
I'm going to die on this hill, goddamn.
That's fine.
Rick James.
You mentioned the third act. That's the only, like, for me, that's the biggest negative is, like, by the time you get to the third act of this movie, it really feels like you're just going through the motions to get to the end of it. That's kind of the worst thing to me is, like, essentially once Ray Liotta shows up, like, they're just trying to wrap the shit up, and it stops being about the bear killing everything in sight and kind of becomes like these people just trying to get out. And okay, but that's not the movie you've been trying to feed me for the last hours. So
yeah, you can tell that ending, like the last 15, 20 minutes is really them just like, okay, guys, how are we going to finish this movie? We've got all this shit going on. We've got the bear. It's killing people. Okay. It's done all this radical shit. So we got to do something. Let's just wrap it up. You can really tell it's kind of almost feels rushed.
It does. It feels rushed or half-assed or like you said, like they didn't know how to end it. And I mean, they mentioned at the beginning of the movie, this is based on a true story. And when they say that, it is so
loosely based.
The true story. Yeah. The true story is the bear found cocaine, the bear ingested cocaine, the bear died. That was it. Like, that's the whole story. And you can still go see Pablo Escobar at, I believe it's in Kentucky's visitor center when you enter the state. Anyway, this bear is taxidermied and, they're living the cocaine life in a government building, I guess. But everything else that happens after this, and basically everything about the story is fictitious aside from the title. But it really does give you the feeling like they had no idea how to land this plane. No pun intended, based off how this movie starts. All right. Well, you've already do you want me to jump into hot dogs here, or do you want to give your synopsis based off your prediction on this one?
No, I'll leave that for the finale. I'll let the people wait. They can, I'm just going to tease them. So if you want to go with your hot dogs.
So for me, I give this one 6.5 hot dogs out of 10 bath salt barracudas. It's a pretty typical midnight killer animal movie. It's got low budget feel and low budget effects, and it's silly and it's goofy. I don't understand I expected so much more comments that keep getting thrown at it because, come on, it's called Cocaine Bear. Like I've said 10 times in this episode, it's got a bear doing cocaine and dumb shit happens. Is the CG bad? Yep. But good CG is expensive. So deal with it. Does it need more Cocaine Bear? Absolutely. Sorry, Sean. It needs more Cocaine Bear. But it's an hour and a half movie where, I will say I had more fun watching it the second time because my expectations were even lower than the first time. Like I knew, like, kind of had a feel of like, oh, I can go watch the bear tear this dude up. I'm like, go grab a beer, go whatever. Okay, back in a few minutes, another bear eating something type thing. So it replays pretty well, and it's just dumb fun that's destined to be the main attraction on Tubi for the next decade.
I have to say I like that, and I guess maybe this is sarcasm. I like that there's no consequences to any of the actions in the movie. Everyone gets away, multiple people get killed, police officers get killed, random park goers get killed, park rangers get killed, ambulance drivers get killed. Nobody's questioned the way they show it in the movie. The cops roll up and they just walk past the people, the victims that are walking away. Like they don't stop them. There's no questioning. It's just like, okay. And I have
of all people have said that's how things happened in the 80s.
Well, I mean, it's true. That's what I like about it. So, and I do have to admit that, when we talked about this, I'm like, I don't want to see this. This is not making my list at all. I'm a big curmudgeon on movies like this, and probably a lot more than I should be. And for me, the overhype of a movie, people talking about it too much, makes me it's like kryptonite to me. Like it doesn't make me weak, but I just don't want to be near it. Like I don't want to know anything about it. I don't want to see it. I just write it off. This movie, like I mentioned earlier, plays off much more like a caper film. Capers and heist kind of thing, but it has some slasher elements. And I think that's what makes it a fun movie. Going into the movie, should you think that this is going to be like this? I don't know. Citizen Kane of whatever killer animal movies? No. Cocaine Bear isn't a great movie, but it's entertaining. Would Ray Liotta be proud? Probably. He's made a lot worse movies. For me, yeah. I'd give this 6 extreme cases of road rash out of 11 hot dogs.
So we're not that far off.
No, not really.
Which is, I'm a little surprised. I expect you to be harsher on it. I do like that you mentioned that Ray Liotta's made way worse movies than this, because that's the other thing that I think is,
or No Escape.
That's the other
is that
thing.
what it's called? Is it Fortress, where he's like on the prison planet? Yeah, there's so many shitty.
Like, and again, I like Ray Liotta, but for every one Goodfellas he has like 20 Cocaine Bears. So let's not.
And this is on the higher end of those movies.
Right. So, not trying to talk shit about the dead, but he's got his share of paycheck movies, we'll call them. We got anything we want to... What's that?
His final one, Oso Intoxicado.
Until they unearth the director's cut with 100% more Ray Liotta, 3-hour epic.
Turns into a drama about Ray Liotta and his grandson.
They just clip in together a bunch of scenes from Goodfellas and just have it. Yeah. Look at that. Pesci's in there too now. So
he's not even in the credits.
What the fuck? When did this happen? You got anything you want to tack in before we wrap on this one?
No, it's enough Cocaine Bear for me. Just enough Cocaine Bear. Didn't need more.
Just enough.
I don't need more. I don't need any less. Just enough. Maybe a little less.
Yeah. No. Always more Cocaine Bear. Always more. All right. I think that's all we got for this week then. We're going to wrap here on this. Cocaine Bear is currently available on demand on all the usual places where you can rent some movies. So Vudu, Comcast, Amazon, whatever.
Is it on the ice cream sandwich?
Yes.
He says with authority.
Yeah, you can find this movie pretty easily, and like I said, I'm sure at some point it's going to make its way to a more accessible streaming platform, but it's still pretty new right now. We probably should have said like 30 minutes ago, like potential spoilers on this, since this is a new movie, so you've been warned just way after the fact.
I think we've been pretty good about spoilers. We haven't given up too much. Could have said a lot more.
I don't think there's enough plot to really feel like it's going to spoil anything, or at least not good plot. But if we're wrong, if we ruined this movie for you, tell us about it. Tell us how we've ruined your movie-going experience at all the social networks at Dewey Pod Monster. You can tell us on our website, which is at crap.town, which has options for feedback. You can even leave feedback on the episode itself if you want to reply inside of Spotify. I don't know how we get those messages, but if you send them, I'll figure it out. Or Sean, one of us will. And then follow Sean on his social endeavors at where he wants to tell you. Do what he says.
Hey, have you ever John, let me ask you, have you ever wondered how good an Oberon would taste after 13 years?
Absolutely. Every waking second of my life, I've wondered how good an Oberon would taste after 13 years.
Well, guess what? You can check it out at youtube.drafttherapy.com. You don't have to drink that beer, because I did. And I'll tell you all about it. Again, figure it out, find out, look it out, watch it out, listen out at youtube.drafttherapy.com. You can also find me on all the social media networks at drafttherapy.com.
Okay. Old beer and all that good stuff. So that's all we got for this week. Have yourself a great week, and we will talk to you with some other crap next week. Cheers. Well, yeah, compare it to where's my camera?
I can see you on a different camera. Like, whoa, you're getting real advanced over here.
I didn't do that on purpose. Anyway, let's see. What else do I have right down here? So we mentioned Clark Jr. You can probably cut out what I'm just babbling about here.
No.
No?